out here today at Keene Cemetery, Nassau County. Hope everybody had a good Christmas and a happy New Year. Riding out to a couple of places today, Keene Cemetery, and then I'm gonna ride over to the Ogilvy Cemetery and do 2 short videos. Anyway, this is the Keene Family Cemetery, and it's located off of US 1 Kings Highway, right across the Duval County line into Nassau County. We're not very far from the river that separates the two. Now, once again, this is a family cemetery. Now, this is not, I don't consider this a family cemetery for my family, even though I do have a great grandmother that's buried out here and a great grandmother that's buried out here, and that's actually who we come out here to see today. But my great grandmother, Margaret Polly Ann Tanner, she went by Polly Tanner. Her sister married a Keene, and that's why her and her mother are buried up here. Now, we've got Hickenbottoms buried up here, and Hickenbottoms are part of my family, here again by marriage. And I actually do have a Hickenbottom that's a great grandmother. But most all of these people are related by marriage up here, along with the Keene family. Now, this is the back side of the Keene property. The Keenes run sawmills for the most part. They were farmers, but I know Mitchell Keene and Wesley Keene both run sawmills. Now, Wesley Keene was married to my great grandmother's sister, and their son Mitchell Keene had a sawmill that actually my grandfather and great grandfather worked for at one time. There's also some Wingets buried up here. The Wingets are a part of my direct family. Now, I don't know any of these Wingets and Hickenbottoms that are buried up here, but I know they're all kin. Now, there's somewhere around 200 graves up here, and my great grandmother Polly Tanner is buried up here, but her grave is unmarked for some reason. Her mother's grave is marked, but Polly Ann's is not. Now, I know it's over here somewhere, and it's a rather unusual grave, but for some reason I'm missing it at the moment and don't see it. And I know it's here somewhere. Hasn't been that long since I was up here. The last time I was up here, I guess me and my mother come up here, but that's been, Lord, 8 or 10 years ago. But I was thinking it was just about where I'm standing over here, and I'm looking around and I don't see it. Now, okay, now I know why. I was thinking about that bulldog. There's a, well, I say a bulldog, a Rottweiler up here, and I was thinking to say, I thought that Rottweiler was pretty close. And the reason I missed this grave is because it's right up against this house over here by the fence. Now, this grave over here would be the grave of Eliza Bradley, was her maiden name. Then she married Josh Tanner. As you can tell, this is a homemade grave here. And once again, it's not pretty by any means, but somebody took a lot of time and effort to do this. Now, it reads Mrs. Eliza Green, born January 11th, 1830, died February 21st, 1901. And it's a concrete marker, and all the surrounding area is in concrete. You can still read it pretty good, but it's getting in disrepair. Now, Polly is buried up here. Now, she's unmarked. I don't know whether she's to the right over here by this fence or whether she's to the left, but my understanding is that she is buried right here by her mom. Oh, now, Eliza Bradley married Josh Tanner. Josh fought in the war between the states, and he died up in Kentucky on the Chattanooga campaign. Now, to the best of my knowledge, he wasn't wounded in battle. He died of disease, and he's buried in a Confederate cemetery in Richmond, Kentucky. It's a small cemetery. There's less than 20 people buried there that they know of. There are probably more. The Confederates probably had camped nearby, and when he died, I'm sure that's why he was interred there. At that time, embalming was a rare thing. It's really when embalming got started, was the war between the states. But most of the time, if you were just an enlisted man, they buried you wherever you was at, and unless your family came and got you, and usually that was long after the fact, after you were buried, and they just come and got your remains and brought them back home. But anyway, after Josh Tanner died, she married another one of my great-great-grandfathers, James R. Green. Now, you've seen his grave over at the Green Cemetery up in Crackertown. Up there, we went to the Green Cemetery, and he's buried up there with his first wife. So Eliza is actually related to me two different ways. I have a lot of family members that are related to me in 2 or 3 different ways. But anyway, her daughter, Polly Ann Tanner, is buried here somewhere. Now, I notice there's an Albritton, 2 Albrittons that are buried here. Now, the Albrittons are actually related to James R. Green's first wife, ironically. She would be my direct ancestor with James R. Green. Now, the thing about Polly Tanner was actually the reason that I got into genealogy in the first place. She was my grandfather's grandmother. And he always wondered about her for one reason or another, and through searching for her is how I got interested in genealogy in the first place. Now, Polly Tanner, was a little bit of information out there on her, and I actually come up with 3 photographs, ironically, of her. There's not a lot of written history about her, but I did find actually 3 photographs. 2 when she was a teen, and then 1 later on, probably made about the time that my great-grandfather was born. Now, she died in childbirth when they delivered my great-grandfather. She did not live long after his birth. Now, she was married to James Forrest Davidson, my original namesake, and he was a Scotsman and a merchant seaman. He was actually a carpenter on the merchant ships. And the best I can come up with is when she died, he just kind of picked up and left. Now, he left my grandfather, or great-grandfather, in the care of Eliza for a little while. But later on, I guess Eliza was not able to take care of him. She died in 1901. And he went to live with his eldest sister, and was a farmhand for them. I know in the 1900 census he was listed living with them as a farmhand. And I was really young when he passed away, but I remember sitting in the kitchen of their old house, and he would not eat cornbread. And the reason he wouldn't eat cornbread was that's all they fed him when he was slave labor for his sister's husband, their farm. Pretty much all they fed him was cornbread. So you never seen cornbread much on their table when you went to eat with them. All you seen was biscuits. They had bread. And she pretty much made biscuits for every meal. But he would not eat cornbread because that's all he had to eat when he was younger. Now, another thing about Polly Tanner, something that's always, I don't know what you would say. I don't know why it bothers me, I guess you might say, in a sense. Now, she never married until she married my great-great-grandfather, James Davidson. But she had 5 children prior to marrying him. Now, I've often wondered how she ended up with 5 children. Now, through family recollection and records, I know she was living with James R. Green and Eliza in 1880, 8 years prior to my great-grandfather being born. And it shows her living there with her 2 oldest children. They were both born in 1876. But she was living there with her 2 small children. And between 1800 and 1884 or 86 is when Polly and James got married. She had 3 more children. So I often wondered where, how those children come about. Now, I've always thought that there was something that wasn't quite right, some kind of way. Now, whether it was abuse, molestation through a family member, or whether she done other things maybe that wasn't quite legal, you might say. I don't know. I know that she lived up around Trader's Hill up there, and that's where all the sailors off the few ships that could make it up that far would come into. So, who knows? She may have been a lady of the evening, to put it nicely. I don't know. I know that's how she met my great grandfather. Was up at Trader's Hill. He was a merchant seaman. So that's another thing that leads me to believe that maybe she had kind of a shaded past. And here again, I do not fault anybody for their lifestyle or what they do. People sometimes have to do what they have to do to survive. And if you're a single woman, especially at that time, and had to provide for your family, you either lived off of other people or you done whatever you could do to survive. So, like I say, I don't know. I'm definitely not passing any judgment any kind of way. Now, I was looking for, now there's a Rowell family that's buried here, and well, I have to wonder, now that's William Nelson Rowell, 1897 to 1964. Florence Smith, 1910 to 1993. Now, I have to wonder if that's my great uncle Nelts Rowell, is what they called him. I will have to ask my mother about that, but the age is probably pretty close to Uncle Nelts. So if that's him, this is a discovery for me. I didn't know he was buried up here, if that's him. Now, this has been up here for a few years, about 30 years actually, or whatever. This is another, what I'll call, tragic thing. Kristen Marie Hickenbottom, 1973 to 1990. So she was very young, 17 years old, when she passed away, and they have built quite a memorial for her here. She's got pictures of her on this elaborate stone here. And it says, "Death is nothing at all. I have only slipped away into the next room. I and you are, whatever we were to each other, we are still. Call me by my old familiar name. Speak to me in the easy ways which we always used to put no difference into your tone. Wear no forced tone of solemnity or sorrow. Laugh as we were always laughed at the little jokes together. Play, smile, think of me, pray for me. Let my name be ever the household word that it always was. Let it be spoken, without an effort, without a trace of a shadow in it. Life means all that it ever meant. It is the same as it ever was. There is absolute, unbroken continuity. What is death but a negligible accident? Why should I be out of mind because I am out of sight? I am but waiting for you, for an interval somewhere very near, just around the corner. All is well. Now, that is one heck of an epitaph. And when I walked up here, I don't see one, the emotion detector, but I'm going to have to listen back very closely on this video when I get to this or whatever. But there was little chimes going off. Now, they've either got something that done that, or Kristen here just said hello to me with some chimes. So, but that epitaph there is very moving, and it says a lot of things that I preach all the time. Talk about me like I'm still here. And that just goes back to what I've said many, many times before, that we never go away unless we're forgotten. As long as people talk about you, you're still alive. And like I said before, that's why I speak about a lot of these people. I was trying to find Wesley and Mitchell King. Now, Wesley was married to my great-great aunt. Their son, Mitchell King, he owned a sawmill. And my grandpa and great-grandpa, Grandpa Davidson and great-grandpa Green, was working for him one time. And so he sent him somewhere with a load of lumber on an old beat-up truck. Didn't half run. Well, they were way out here in the woods in Nassau County, and they were supposed to make a delivery of this wood to Jacksonville somewhere. Now, this would have probably been back in the mid-30s, maybe the late 30s. And they got about halfway to Jacksonville and the truck broke down. Well, so they sat there on one of them old logging roads. Nobody come by, so finally they just walked on back to the house. Well, when they got back and talked to Mr. King about it, he was mad as a wet hornet because the truck had broke down, blamed them for it. And I don't think they worked for him much longer, which they probably wasn't making a whole lot of money anyway. They didn't pay them boys much, and they had company stores, and you bought stuff out of the company store at 4 or 5 times the price, and so you were lucky at the end of the week to have any wages left at the end of the week. So I remember my grandpa telling me about my great-grandpa Jack loved salmon and rice. And all that is a can of salmon cooked in with a rice when you cook it. And that was one of his favorite things to eat. And a can of salmon was $1 at the company store. Now, that was expensive. But once a week, he had to have his can of salmon. No matter what, he had to have that can of salmon. Now, the Keene name is spelled two different ways. Some of them used an E on the end, and some of them didn't. This one here has an E on the end of it, but most of them up here have just the K double E N spelling. Well, with that, I'm going to wrap this up and head over to Ogilvie Cemetery. That'll be a short video. We're going to go over there and see my great grandfather, John H. Williams. So, as always, I appreciate you taking your time out of your day to watch this video and listen to me talk a little bit about my family and keeping them alive, so to speak. And I'd appreciate it if you'd like and subscribe. And y'all have a wonderful day, and God bless you.